guys, Mrs. T here. Welcome to the art room, which, as you can tell, is in the studio in my basement. So what we're going to be doing today is, if you've already watched the video about how to make your own homemade watercolor, I thought it was important for us to do a little bit of a comparison side by side to see the different qualities of the watercolor. So many times we think watercolor is super basic and super easy, and for the most part, it is. But depending on the type of watercolor you have and are using, you might have different results. So let's check out 3 different types of watercolors. So with us today, I have the homemade watercolor that I did the video on how to make. This is a great tool in case you don't have any watercolors at home and you feel like painting. This here is sold at pretty much most craft stores. This here is a watercolor palette of various different colors. You know, starts at black, ends at white, and has everything in between. And then this is what we traditionally have in most art classrooms. In our classroom, as you know, we use primarily our liquid watercolor. We like the vibrant colors a little bit more. It is kind of used and lasts a little bit longer. But a lot of classrooms do use these traditional Crayola watercolors. So let's take a look at how they all look. So to do this, I went ahead and I just took a piece of cardstock, and let me try to get a little bit closer here. I just put down, homemade basic watercolor palette, which is the one here from most craft stores, and then the classroom paint. And I'm just gonna do some simple paint techniques. I of course have my cup of water here, and then I have 2 different watercolor brushes. Again, I'll try to show you a little bit closer. I've got large bristle and then a smaller fine bristle. One thing to know about watercolor, when you're using watercolor, it's always best to use a soft hair brush. Let me grab a contrasting example. So this here is more of a thick bristle brush, whereas this is a finer brush, and so it's easier to move. This one's a little bit harder to move. The harder bristles aren't ideal for watercolor because you'll see the brush strokes a lot more. So the softer gives you that soft color that watercolors traditionally give. So just for the fun of it, we're going to start all the way over here with the classroom. And I'm going to use a larger bristle just so that I can get through this a little bit faster. I'm going to choose in the classroom paint palette to use the purple. Of course, we know watercolor likes water, so I'm going to get that palette nice and wet in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay down a wash, just a traditional wash, just so we can see the vibrancy of the color. So it's always good with watercolor when you're using these kinds, the non-liquid like we use in our classroom, to have a dirty cup and a clean cup. That way you can put your brush and clean your brush in your dirty cup, and then you can get water, fresh water, from your clean cup. So I'm going to go in, get some fresh water, and now I'm going to go over to my basic. Because I used violet over here, I'm going to switch over to some blue in our basic palette. I'm going to try to do the exact same thing for each one, where I get some water, get my paint wet, and then lay it down, and then I do not return to my water, and I just get some more color. That way we are pretty consistent. So again, cleaned in my dirty water, go into my clean water. Now, I have not tested the homemade watercolor, so I'm excited to do that. And I am going to use green. So I'm want to get that wet. I can already see the green happening. Voila! And I have to say, our results are pretty good. They're actually pretty consistent. I apologize, my camera screen is not the greatest, but you can see about the same amount of color all the way across. So you have your violet in the classroom pack, you have your blue in the basic, and then the green. I know, sorry, the camera isn't the greatest, but I'm pretty happy with how the homemade watercolor turned out. So hopefully you either own a color palette. You know, the Crayola ones are fantastic. You get very vibrant colors. I mean, we can see that. It's no different than the results that we get when we use the basic artist palettes from the craft stores. And I tell you what, I am pretty proud of how my homemade watercolors turned out. So, have fun, don't stress, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.